Good morning, everyone, or good evening, depending on where you are in the world. My name's Brett Bonser. I'm a director here at align.me, and I'm joined by my colleague, Annika Dobby. Annika, say hello to the audience.
Good morning, guys. Hope you're all well. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, delighted to be presenting again on Bright Talk, and the topic for today's discussion is how to align your indirect sales channel with your go-to-market strategy. And this technology obviously gives us the ability to share content throughout the world. I'm coming to you from Melbourne, Australia. It's coming up to 8 o'clock here in the morning in Melbourne. A slightly grey day, unfortunately, and a bit of rain. Hopefully, wherever you are in the world, that it's a sunny, bright start to the day. Let me start first of all with one of my favourite cartoons that somewhat sets the scene for today's discussion. And it shows marketing guys throwing leads into a canyon, hoping that someday these leads will be plentiful enough to bridge the gap between both marketing and sales. And while the slide Crossing the Chasm focuses on the disconnect between marketing and sales, that could equally be seen to be true not only between direct sales but indirect sales. How do you bridge that misalignment gap, obviously, but sometimes between vendors and indirect channels, and of course between marketing and sales? And this area of alignment of an organisation between their marketing functions, between your sales functions, be it direct or indirect, has been an area of focus for Align.me over the last 14 years. Indeed, in 2005, in conjunction with Eloqua, we published the first piece of comprehensive research on the topic of alignment from a study of 1,400 global businesses around the world. And that initial research provided us with some really startling results. It showed that those aligned businesses, the companies that had really nailed this, were achieving growth rates of 5.4 percentage points faster than their non-aligned competitors. They were closing at 38% better from proposed to close, and they were retaining customers 36% more effectively. So really startling results. Roll on some 10 years, obviously lots of change, and back in 2014-15 we decided to redo that alignment research, this time in conjunction with the global marketing automation player Marketo. And again, we went to a global audience, this time of over 500 participants around the world. Of these, they were all in the complex buying and selling environment. So we filtered out any of those that were in more transactional sales. So very relevant to all of us that are on the call this morning. And again, unsurprisingly, the aligned businesses were doing substantially better than their non-aligned competitors. Their proposed to close rates were significantly better, indeed 67% better from proposed to close. There was a lot less friction between the various functions, and for those of you that are on the call that kind of lead marketing, either direct marketing or even indirect channel marketing, the marketing teams in aligned businesses, be it either direct sales or indirect sales and marketing, there was 209% more revenue being accounted for by marketing generated leads. So clearly, getting aligned between your various functions as either a vendor and your indirect channel to market, or indeed marketing and direct sales, is an important point if you want to accelerate the growth of your business. In terms of today's agenda, I'm going to cover 5 key things, and then I'm going to leave you with hopefully an opportunity to take some action and invest in an opportunity to drive real growth within your business. I'm going to cover the common causes of indirect channel misalignment. And to do that, I'm going to draw upon, I guess, our experience over the last 14 years and over 500 client engagements. And then I'm going to share insights in terms of how you might optimize your own indirect strategy. And then move on to sharing with you some insights in terms of what happens when you get it right, some Q&A along the way, your steps to alignment, and then again in the final section, the keys to growth and a very tailored opportunity. Now, along the way, if you want to sing out and ask some questions, my colleague Annika is monitoring the chat room, so please do that. As I said, there'll be an opportunity for questions at the end of the session. Now, my personal experience dates back over 30 years in terms of working in frontline sales, frontline marketing, and also as a managing director of the subsidiary of a NASDAQ-listed company. And these are just some of the clients that we at Align.me have actually served. Our organisation is focused on bringing marketing, sales, be it direct and indirect, together around a really blisteringly clear plan for growth. And we've had the opportunity to serve some of the world's best-known brands, but also within the local market, we're working with a number of high-growth small enterprises where we're actually extending our work not only into planning but execution. And one of the things that all of these businesses had in common is that they were looking to kind of bridge the misalignment gap, the ability to actually bring their functions together around a clear plan. I'm going to draw upon later specifically 3 of these. One of those is VTEL Corporation. Some of you, if you've been in the video conferencing industry, will know VTEL. At one point in time, they were the second largest manufacturer of conferencing technology worldwide. And I'll tell you the story of VTEL and how we aligned our indirect strategy for growth, but also what happened next. Request DSL is a more local story. They're a broadband carrier for which I had the privilege to be head of sales and strategy, and I'll talk about that. And then finally, I want to share with you some of the insights from our work with SAP around the world. SAP, I'm sure many of you will know, the world's second largest software vendor, and we've had the privilege to serve SAP on a global basis, driving or helping them to drive their indirect channel strategy with some powerful facilitated programs and training. Now let me move first to the common causes of misalignment. And there are 3 big things that I want to touch upon in today's discussion. I'm going to talk about this notion of the product's so fantastic, it's just going to fly off the shelves. The next one is the all too common problem of the quota margin dilemma. And then finally, I want to talk about having a foot in both camps. So, Annika, I love this slide of pigs flying in the background. You know, all too often we're working with companies and they come to us and say, you know, we've built this fantastic product or service. It's just awesome. It's going to take the market by storm. All we need is an indirect channel to market. We'll give them the product, and you know they're just going to fly off the shelves. And the reality is that we know that products and services still need to be sold in the market until they become known and adopted, almost in mature markets. Having an indirect channel strategy that assumes that your indirect channel is just going to know how to get up and sell your new product to market without your direct support is a recipe for disaster. If you don't know how to sell your product, then don't expect an indirect channel to do that for you, and don't be surprised where that approach actually fails to deliver dividends. The next one that we see is this quota margin dilemma. And again, Annika, I love this one. What's this slide? Where's this slide come from?
Please, sir, can I have some more?
Please, sir, can I have some more? So that lovely slide here of the young boy with his bowl outstretched, saying, "Can I actually have a little bit more?" And that's the dilemma. So we have our direct sales organisation, all too often, who are leading the charge, who have control of the market, and the indirect channel is left to feed on the scraps. Sitting out there, engaging with your product marketing teams, competing almost direct head-to-head with your direct sales organisations, almost begging, pleading for a few leads to go and help you to go prosecute in the market. And unsurprisingly, organisations where they're failing to properly engage and support and even create demand effectively for their indirect channel, don't be surprised when these organisations see that their indirect channel strategy fails to get traction. And then the final one is having a foot in both camps. It's this challenge or this potential disconnect between organisations when they have almost a hybrid channel model. So they have a part of their organisation that's basically going out and leveraging direct selling to go address the market, and another part that is being executed through their indirect channels to market, be them distributors, value-added resellers, or integration partners or the like. And there's this constant conflict between the direct sales organisation and the indirect sales organisation, and the leadership over the top going, hey, we're going to go hedge our bets. We're going to have a foot in both camps. So let's move on to that now. How do you optimise your indirect strategy? So I want to talk about three things here. One is, first of all, understanding your buyer's journey. Understanding the journey that your buyers take to move through problem, need, ultimately to seek a solution. And at the core of that, the big problem that you're in the business of solving. Making your strategy, we use the term buyer-centric. I want to talk about market maturity as a input to channel strategy, and understanding the maturity of your buyers, because that is a critical piece in terms of direct versus indirect channel strategy. And then finally, understanding the math of your own funnel. What sort of sales resources required for you to fully prosecute the market opportunity that exists, and actually how do you dimension that effectively, given the available data that either presents from your CRM, your marketing automation system, or indeed your innate knowledge that gets built up within the marketing and sales teams of any organisation. Let's first talk about understanding your buyer's journey to focus your strategy in the context of indirect. Now, the notion of the term the buyer's journey was first coined by my business partner, Hugh McFarlane. And some of you on the call may have read Hugh's book, The Leaky Funnel, but he coined that term over 15 years ago when he actually first published the novel. And the novel itself, it documented the journey of fictional company Hardbits Corporation as they attempted to make their strategy buyer-centric. And you see that term, the buyer's journey, quite often now in a lot of published literature, certainly those tracking the marketing automation vendors and other organisations like Serious Decisions. You see that term. It actually came from Hugh, my partner, and over 15 years ago. So what is the buyer's journey? We as a seller, we're going through a selling journey. We're trying to obviously identify leads, turn those into qualified leads, to go then engage with our customers, hopefully put a relevant proposal on the table, become the preferred provider, and ultimately engage. And if you look at CRM systems around the world, or even sales training methodologies, the notion of universe, above the funnel, in the funnel, best view and close, they are common selling terms. But our buyers are completely uninterested in our selling journey. All they're interested in is their buying journey. So what is it? At some point in time, your buyers, they're untroubled and unaware. They don't know who you are, and even if they do, they don't have a problem that you're in the business of solving. And then perhaps something happens. Now, maybe it's something that you did, or maybe it's something that they saw, but for whatever reason, they're no longer untroubled. They have a gap, something that they're trying to fix, accomplish, or avoid. I've heard this described as the cognitive phase of the decision-making process. It's a gap. They're getting clarity around some big issue that exists, either lack of something that's broken or more of a good thing that warrants them really investing time to go after it. So they're troubled. Having become troubled, they're then in a position to move from that to actually move to the next stage of their buying journey. What do I need to make that pain go away? It's been described almost as the divergent thinking phase of the decision-making process. Now, in this next stage of need agreement, they're looking at all the requirements to actually close their gap. Having got clarity around that, they're then in a position to receive offers, make a preference decision, and then ultimately engage and hopefully close out. And that is the journey that each one of the buyers go through. But there is a critical phase in this, and it's that early phase, it's that problem definition. Because all of us and your buyers are the same. We have many competing needs, but it's only those needs prioritised by compelling business problems that we take action against. So a strategy, a good strategy, be it either direct or indirect, is buyer-centric. It's actually informed by the big problem that you're in the business of solving. So understand your buyer's journey. What are the big problems that your business is in the business of solving? Think about it. Think about the clients that you've served in the past. What are the big problems that they have that you solve? What about your current customers? What are the big issues that they have that you solve? What about your products or services? Work back from your products and services. If that's the product or service, before that is the need, and before that is the problem. And then even think about your current channel to market, be it either direct or indirect. Think about the problems that they're being engaged about. And hopefully you'll end up with a big list of problems that you're in the business of solving, and you can actually prioritise that down to a target list. Now, when we work with clients through either one of our planning programs, and we have one product called Funnel Camp, where we take individual clients through a very structured journey to create alignment and build their plan for growth, or in the case of indirect channel-focused businesses, where we do that at scale. It's a program called Funnel Mastery, where we have multiple partners in the room, and we're following that same planning journey. At the core of that is understanding the big problem that you're in the business of solving, because ultimately that should guide your strategy. What is the relative attractiveness of each one of those problems? What is the relative strength that you have in terms of solving one of those problems. And then hopefully you can understand, you can identify a critical problem, a problem for which you'll be most richly rewarded, but also where you have greatest relative strength. And that can really be the focal point or the rallying point for your overall strategy. Armed by that knowledge, that key problem that you're in the business of solving, then you can start to ask yourself some critical questions and make your strategy buyer-centric. You can ask yourself, who most has that problem? What are the types of organisations? What are the segments? What are the sub-segments? What are the roles within those businesses? Because ultimately, that's who you should be selling to. You can ask yourself, what does a complete solution look like to that problem? Because that's what you should be selling. Or at least you should understand what complete looks like. And now let's tie it back to the core topic of today's discussion, which is your indirect strategy. Now, you cannot have a discussion around channel to market without actually having real clarity around what that core problem is that you're trying to solve. Because ultimately, your buyers will determine or have a big impact on the effectiveness of your channel strategy to market. So think about it. Think about your buyers. Who do they expect to engage to? What sort of organisations? What sort of breadth of offering needs to be put on the table to offer a complete solution? Are they expect to engage directly with you as the manufacturer, or are they actually looking for a bundle of solutions that is best served by an indirect channel to market, where the indirect channel is taking some of their capability and your core product and offering it up to the customer? So it's really about making your indirect strategy or even your direct channel strategy buyer-centric. Because one of the ways that you get to go optimise your strategy is to really understand that core problem and have that inform the mix of direct or indirect. But that's only one of the elements. I want to move now to the market maturity model. Evolve your indirect strategy informed by the maturity of your buyers or the maturity of your market. Now, this is not our intellectual property. It comes from the work of Geoffrey Moore. I'm sure many of you will have read Geoffrey Moore's work or perhaps downloaded some of the white papers from Chasm Group and indeed reprints of that from many different providers around the world. And we're at Align, we're great fans of Geoffrey Moore's work. He's a real thought leader in terms of strategy. And in his first book, Crossing the Chasm, he talked about the maturity of buyers, how different sort of categories of buyers evolve as a market mature. In the early stage, markets tend to be dominated by visionary buyers, early adopters. And for those of you that have ever sold into those early markets, it's an exciting time. Price is almost irrelevant in that early market. It's actually dominated by buyers who want to be first to market. And they're driven by this need to execute competitive advantage. So in that early market, the challenge is that those buyers are distributed across, multiple segments. So the notion of a highly targeted strategy in terms of a highly targeted segmentation strategy is not really relevant because those early market buyers are distributed across the universe. Large companies, small companies, government, non-government. There's nothing that really binds those organisations together other than they want to be first to market. As the market matures and we enter the realm of pragmatic adoption, these next group of buyers take a very, very different view. They're still very early and innovative in their thinking, but they're also far more pragmatic. And at that next stage of adoption, these buyers are saying, show me someone just like me who's got a return on investment, and then I'm in. And more describe this as the bowling alley. So you're starting to see pins of adoption, small pins, little sub-segments of adoption where they're saying, show me someone just like me, and they mean exactly. No, I'm a higher education provider, but I'm on the west coast of the United States, and I only deal offering education around technology and finance. So show me one of those companies that's got a return on an investment, and then I'm in. And the strategy there has to be about actually dominating each one of these niches and then moving to the next pin and then beyond. And over time, then Moore described what happened next. He talks about a tornado of adoption. All of a sudden, as more and more pragmatists come together, the market takes off. It ends up almost in a tornado, a feeding frenzy of activity before we hit Main Street of maturity, and then ultimately end of life, where it's starting to get very, very highly competitive and price-driven. And that is the maturity of buyers. And you've seen this in all sorts of technologies around the world. Think about the adoption of mobile phones. Think about the adoption of CRM systems, either on-premise or in the cloud. Think about the adoption of things like PCs. All of these have actually followed the market maturity curve. Now, you might ask, Annika, what are the implications for this in terms of channel strategy, or indeed indirect channel strategy? And the answer is there are very strong implications. Think about it, folks. In the early market, in that early adopter market, your buyers, they want to work with you. They want to be first. They almost want to mold the solution. So in that very, very early market, they are looking to engage directly with you as the vendor. So in that early market, an indirect channel strategy, so going through resellers or distributors, really fails to get traction because your buyers want to engage with you directly. They want to engage with the inventors. And this is a real challenge, particularly to startup businesses around the world. As they look to expand internationally, they're challenged because they don't see the growth in these international markets because the buyers are looking directly to engage with the vendors. Now, as the market then enters the bowling alley, so this notion of small niches of adoption, indirect channel strategy absolutely comes to play here. The market is saying, show me someone just like me who's got a return on investment, and then I'm in. And those buyers, they want to engage with someone who can deliver ROI specifically to their niche, who really understands their business. So if you think about your own indirect channel strategy, in this stage of market maturity, you need to find those channel partners, those resellers that have absolute domain knowledge within the niche. As the market matures further and we enter the tornado, what happens is in this period of hyper growth, all of a sudden the market's saying, listen, we don't care about the product or service as long as we can get access to it. And that's really where you start to see the growth of indirect channels, where broad distribution really, really makes sense. You want to give your buyers the maximum opportunity to engage with you. And so you see the explosion, or you should see the explosion of indirect channels during that phase. So for those of you that are currently in the bowling alley, you need to be thinking about that and planning in advance, and how do you actually rapidly expand your indirect channel. And I'll talk about that later on with real-life experience in one of my own case studies a little bit further on. Now, it all starts to get interesting when we hit Main Street and then later on as we move to end of life. And I talked earlier about this foot in both camps. Certainly as we start to hit Main Street, what's starting to happen is that your buyers are actually becoming far more aggressive in terms of how they want to buy and at what price point. And that's where you see a real challenge between direct sales and indirect sales as the margins start to fall out of the products and services. So as you start to move through the tornado, you need to be thinking about how you're going to manage that pricing conflict, which will come as you enter Main Street and then beyond into end of life. In end of life, there is still a role for an indirect channel to market as you're looking to drive almost end of life kickers to the products and services. So maybe there are some indirect channels that can add a little bit of additional value there to give you that end-of-life kick along the way. So again, channel strategy is really, really key in terms of your direct and indirect channel to market. Finally, let's talk about dimensioning your funnel. With knowledge of market maturity, you can almost start to segment it out based on where your buyers are, the sort of channel that you need, direct or indirect, or perhaps a hybrid or a blend informed by the market of both. But it still hasn't answered the question, how many? So how many do we need to fully prosecute the market opportunity that exists in front of us and achieve the revenue objectives that we've been set? And how do we go about doing that? Well, unsurprisingly, at Align.me, we recommend you do that through the eyes of your buyers and the buying journey that they take. Dimension, first of all, think about what is your sales resource today and how many meetings can that sales force sustain? And again, by meeting, I mean either a face-to-face meeting or a web conference or a Skype meeting. It's a meeting in our world is something that you plan for. And again, having done hundreds of these projects around the world, kind of rule of thumb for sales organisations, it's somewhere between 2 to 3 and anywhere up to about 20 meetings a week at the extreme. But more often than not, it breaks down in complex selling environments to 4 to 5 meetings per week per sales resource. Now, clearly for those that are dominated by direct sales organisations, you should have, or you likely will have, the greatest amount of mind share with your direct sales channel. Although, even within direct selling organisations, sometimes you have competing product categories and you as product managers are competing for direct sales mind share. But as we know, working with indirect channels, quite often you're actually taking a portion of their time. So you might have a full-time sales person, but in the indirect channel, only one of their available meetings is being focused on your product. So you need to kind of do that dimensioning activity up front to get a sense of what's available right now. Then we need to understand our buyers. So if that's what we have, what do we need? Do we actually have enough resource? So one of the ways that we get to do that is to dimension our funnel. Now, as we know, and Hugh coined this effectively in his book, The Leaky Funnel, even though we talk about it as being a sales funnel, we know that that's not the case. A funnel, everything that you pour in the top comes out the bottom. But in sales and marketing, be it either direct sales or channel sales, that's never the case. It should have been called the sales sieve, but that never would have caught on. We're going to get leakage for a number of different reasons along the buying journey. Along the way, buyers, you're going to fail to position. They're not going to be interested enough. The gaps might not be compelling. The needs might not become fully formed. The proposal may not get through your own internal quality assurance process. Well, there might be something about available resource or terms and conditions that causes you or the client to leak at that point. You may not become the preferred, and then ultimately you may even leak out at the contract stage. You might fail to come to an agreement. But there is going to be leakage at every point in every funnel, and this is true whether you're selling direct or indirect. Armed with that knowledge, ask yourself a couple of questions. Think about how long it's taking on average through each one of those stages. And again, I know you look at these numbers and averages are a challenge, and these numbers will be wrong. No doubt about that. We've done this hundreds of times. They're always wrong. The point is try and get them as directionally correct. This is about a guide to dimensioning your channels. Think about your leakage rate. So what's your success rate that you're achieving at each one of these stages? In the example we've given, we've got 10% progression at positioning, 60% are confirming their interest, and 40% are leaking. We've got a large number that are acknowledging their gap, and only 12% that are leaking at that stage, and so on and so on. I encourage you to think about leakage per stage as really one of your inputs to your dimensioning. And then finally, the number of meetings. Now, on average, how many meetings is it taking to progress an average customer through that stage of the journey? And again, folks, the numbers will be imprecise, but a directional number is still highly insightful. So what you can do is you can actually take each one of these inputs and use our advanced funnel modeling tool, Funnel Plan, and actually dimension out the sort of sales resource that's required. So Funnel Plan, and again, later on I'm going to give you some links to the software, will actually give you some insights in terms of how many buyers you need at each stage of your buying journey, but also how many salespeople you need to go prosecute your funnel to achieve your revenue objectives. And that is really the final input in terms of making that decision between direct and indirect channel strategy in terms of your overall resourcing to go prosecute the market.
Now, I mentioned earlier that we had followed up our initial 2005 research with a study in 2014, and this was done in conjunction with the marketing automation leader, Marketo. And in that global piece of research, we engaged with 500 businesses around the world, and all of those businesses were involved in complex buying and selling environments. And one of the elements that we looked at was where there was a shared process between the sales organisation, either be it the direct sales organisation and or indeed indirect, and their marketing processes. So where there was an alignment between both, there was an enormous performance increase. A shared and aligned process between marketing and sales contributed to marketing qualified leads or lead acceptance rates going through the roof. Indeed, 108% improvement in the acceptance of a lead, and as a result, a massive 126% improvement in marketing's contribution to revenue. So I'm sure that'll delight the ears of all of our marketers that are on the call. Now, one of the things that we didn't expect, but it also came out of the survey, we also saw a jump in customer retention rates. Indeed, those aligned businesses were getting a retention rate of 51% or greater retention than their non-aligned competitors. So there is clear benefit in aligning the organisation, your sales organisation, be it direct and or indirect, and your marketing organisation, be it your direct marketing team and indeed your channel marketing team, around that shared aligned process. And again, we would suggest that that should be buyer-centric. But my own experience mirrors this as well. And I want to talk about, again, 3 particular case studies. And these are relevant to different stages in the buyer maturity curve. I had the great privilege some 15 years ago, or 15 plus years ago, to lead the subsidiary of US manufacturer Vitel Corporation. Now, some of you, if you are have been exposed to video conference, may well remember Vitel. At the time that I joined the business, there were 2 very large manufacturers, a company called Picturetel who really dominated the commercial segments of the world, and Vitel. And our focus was very much around the healthcare and the education sector. And indeed, we actually built specific product. We had a wonderful piece of technology. It was called FRED, Friendly Rollabout Engineered for Doctors. And it was a device, a video conferencing device that you could take directly into the operating theatre. And in terms of our indirect channel strategy, it was highly effective in the sense that we were identifying a small number of niche indirect channels around the world that had really strong domain vertical experience. So here within Australia, I partnered with the likes of CSC Healthcare to go into the healthcare sector. And that was highly effective while the market was in the bowling alley and our buyers were seeking kind of this niche expertise. Locally here, our market share grew from somewhat like 4% to 20% over that 5-year period. But unfortunately, Vitel Corporation, indeed this is true of many organisations, failed to ride the tornado. We were unable to actually transition from niche markets and indeed our niche channels to a volume delivery model. We really needed to rapidly expand our indirect channels when the market for video conferencing hit tornado. Some of you may know the company Polycom, and indeed, Annika, we're actually using a Polycom conference phone here, and Polycom, with their broad telephony distribution, came out of nowhere and actually dominated the video conferencing market worldwide. Part of that was product advantage, but also a lot of that was around channel to market. Unfortunately, Vitel, my company, at the time, they almost ceased to exist, and Polycom stock went from, I think, $3 a share to $120 a share over the journey. So getting your product right, but also your channel to market right, is also clear and key. Somewhat scarred by that, and understanding the need to be able to scale in a tornado market. A few years later, I had the opportunity to lead one of Australia's first broadband carriers, a company called Request DSL. And I know we've got a few from the Australia-New Zealand market on the call. You might remember Request. They ended up being acquired by AAPT more recently. Now, at the time, broadband in Australia was really, or the demand for broadband was really entering the tornado phase. It had been artificially constrained in the Australian market, and so when Request was launched, we had that hyper adoption being presented to us. And so our whole strategy when I was at Request was not about customer acquisition, but absolutely about indirect channel acquisition. And we did certain things like we turned a 20-page reseller contract into a contract on one page with very, very few requirements from the partner. And we were one of the first companies to use technologies like this fantastic BrightTalk service, to actually do channel training. And we were running webinars with our partners on a weekly and monthly basis. A consequence of that, we were able to quickly adopt. We grew from just a few indirect channels to 160 channel partners in an 18-month period. We grew revenues from 500,000 to 22 million, and in our second year we were named Telecommunications Carrier of the Year. Now, clearly the success was an exciting to be part of, but the more important point was actually understanding the maturity of the market and aligning our channel strategy, and in our case our indirect strategy to that. Now, the third brand will be well known to many of you, SAP. SAP, the second largest software company in the world, and one that's been dominant, particularly in enterprise level software on a global basis for many years. But even SAP saw their market change. They saw the rise of cloud-based computing and also the opportunity to scale down their products to be more mid-market. And that also led them to the need to go beyond as their market matured and as they needed to expand, to go beyond just a direct sales model, but they ended up with a hybrid model between direct and indirect. One of the things that SAP have learnt and have been able to prosecute is great support for their indirect channel around the globe. That they recognised that they needed a clear plan, much in the same way that they had with their direct sales organisation. They needed that same clear plan with their indirect part of the business. And they were able to engage, and we had the opportunity to work with them through a program called Funnel Mastery to go do that. And Funnel Mastery is a scalable, repeatable workshop where SAP have been bringing their partners in each parts of the world to actually build a clear one-page plan for growth. It's a plan where they align their revenue objectives, the strategy of each of SAP and their partners in each one of the regions, but also those clear tactics, the marketing tactics and the selling tactics end to end to go prosecute their market segments. It really has delivered them enormous success in terms of things like the use of marketing co-op funds. They talk about increased market-led demand generation and incremental partner pipeline. And a significant improvement in return on investment in terms of their lead generation activities and greater understanding. So one of the things that SAP found is perhaps their level of skills, marketing and selling within their indirect channels weren't quite at the same level as their direct selling organisation. So that through Funnel Mastery, they've been able to lift their skills. The program gets actualised through a one-day face-to-face training program. Now, in the case of SAP, they've chosen to roll that out themselves, and we've actually worked with them to actually train their channel managers on a global basis, and also delivered the content in local language. And so they've been rolling that out within the regions. They actually bring anywhere from sort of 10 to 15 of their partners together, and over that one-day partner planning workshop, those partners leave with a clear plan for growth. And that program leverages our advanced planning software called Funnel Plan, and again, our Funnel Mastery content, that guided process to deliver a powerful outcome. Stu Dickinson, some of you will know the UXC organisation, a very large multinational here, listed entity on the Australian Stock Exchange. Been one of the early users of that SAP's Funnel Mastery program and have been able to leverage it for great success. So let me now sum up in terms of your steps to alignment. We've talked a lot through the webinar so far. We've started with what were some of the key causes for misalignment. We've looked at we've looked at the key causes for misalignment. We've talked about how you optimise your indirect strategy. I've shared with you some of the key insights on what happens when you get it right. And now it's about your steps. What should you be doing next? Well, all of the research and all of our work with customers around the world has evidence that joint planning is one of the keys to revenue growth and success. Find a way to get all the stakeholders together. Sales, in your case, your indirect sales teams, your marketing teams, your channel marketing teams, for that matter, operations, finance, get them together to go build that core and common plan. And if you do, you see fantastic results. So align planning, and this was drawn out from our research, saw marketing qualified lead acceptance rate, closure rate, and total new revenue from business go. And actually, you don't need to invest as much in marketing training because what you're doing is far more optimized. The other thing that the research showed, and this is true of our experience, is this process can't be long-winded. So in the case of SAP, the planning journey is kind of 1 to 2 days. But certainly you don't want to be looking at any more than 4 weeks. there's a direct correlation between the time that it's taking you to plan and the revenue results that the companies see. So for those businesses where they're actually planning effectively with their partners on a maximum of over a 1 to 4 week cycle, but they're doing it quite often, they're seeing a huge jump in marketing's contribution to revenue and also a reduction in customer churn. And the final thing, and I guess this is the key message to everyone, if you're going to get everyone on the same page, our view is that plan should be one page. It should be a blisteringly clear, highly actionable plan. It should identify your revenue objectives, the key bit problem that you're in the business of solving. It should clearly define your strategy, who you're going after, the role that each one of your channels will play, direct or indirect, your ideal client profile, your segmentation, the maturity of buyers within those segments. Because again, market maturity is critical, because sometimes, depending on the maturity of your buyers, they might be better served by either a direct strategy, an indirect strategy, or a combination of both. You need to be able to dimension your marketing and selling funnel. How can you possibly understand what sort of direct or indirect channel you need unless you actually know how much resource is required? So the modelling enables you to do that. And finally, it's about optimising your tactics. Those marketing tactics, those selling tactics. And in the case of companies like SAP, and those of you on the call that are similar to that, those tactics that are going to play out through indirect channels. Having all of that together on one page and doing that from a buyer-centric way and doing that quickly is the last key to growth. So it begs the question, where to next? So one of the things that you can do is start to do this yourself. We've recognised with our work from companies around the world that they were looking for some tools, some support to actually go build their plan. So as simple as going on to funnelplan.com, you can actually license the tools from just a few dollars a month to actually go build your plan for growth. And actually capture that on one page, do the dimensioning, identify the tactics end to end. But for those of you that are looking for more than that are actually looking for some support to actually help you go do that planning. Perhaps for those of you that are on the call that are looking for a scalable, repeatable, indirect channel planning process, then I urge you to consider Funnel Mastery. Funnel Mastery that gives you the ability to actually bring your indirect channels together and to leave a one-day planning workshop with a clear plan for growth. Now, we need forward-thinking channel leaders who want to have that clear plan, because we've executed this with SAP and we've built over 1,000 go-to-market plans with them, but we want to scale that. We want to work with those of you that are on the call that are looking to make that jump. So here's what I'd like you to do. If you're really looking to optimize your indirect channel, if you're looking to drive revenue growth out of that channel to market, if you want to have that clear plan that both you and your partner buy into, that's going to be measurable and repeatable, and you want to do that on a scalable way anywhere in the world, click on the link below and actually schedule some time. Let's have a discussion about how we work with you to make that happen. And don't forget the option to actually take the Funnel Plan software. There is a freeware version of that you can use to try. So go take that action now. Team, it's been a great opportunity to work with you and to speak with you over today's conference. And thanks for those of you that added some questions along the way. And I've got a few private ones, and I promise to sing out to you, and I'll answer you outside the call. My details are here. It's Bonser at align.me, and it is country code 610385958402. I'm based out of Australia, but I do work with businesses all around the world. And can I also thank my colleague Annika, who's helped to put the presentation together, and of course you've got our website there. It's now coming up to the hour, so I want to close out this morning's webinar, allow you to get on with the rest of your day, and may your funnel always be flowing.